Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to look at how code snippets are implemented with the Canvas starter site. So this is going to be part of the Canvas starter site educational series, the 101 series. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in. For this, we're going to look at my build notes and follow along with those. We can look at those by going to the MyListing Club website. That's mylisting.club. We're going to scroll down the homepage just a bit and click into the starter sites card. We're then going to click on the Explore button. And we're then going to click into the Canvas card. We're then going to scroll down to our build notes. And we're going to expand custom code snippets. Okay, so let's go ahead and walk through this here. I'm going to pull up the Canvas starter site while I'm reading through these notes. So just bear with me for a second. I should have had this pulled up before, but we'll get it pulled up right here. Okay, so Canvas is pulled up. We got the back end pulled up. Let me continue on here. Code snippets are included to provide custom functionality with code snippets and custom design with CSS packages, which are also a form of code snippets. So you've got the different type of code, which is, could be a JavaScript code snippet, a PHP code snippet, or you've got CSS, which is what creates the CSS packages that mostly do design. There's some functionality, but it's mostly, for design purposes, okay? All code snippets are implemented responsibly with performance and modularity in mind. I could save a ton of time by cutting corners when doing all of these code snippets for these starter sites, but that's not my style. I don't cut any corners. I take a lot of extra time to make sure everything, like I said, is done responsibly. As far as responsible goes, unlike some designers and developers that add the important declarations to their CSS to force it upon you, I spend extra time to ensure these declarations are only used when necessary. So if you've ever dove into CSS at all, or you've needed to apply CSS to your site and you find out, hey, I've tried everything and it's just the CSS isn't taking hold, what you'll find in a lot of those cases is that the developers put an important declaration on there. So the only way that you can override that is to put an important declaration of your own onto your own CSS. And sometimes even that doesn't work and you have to take extra steps. That's why it's so important that developers, and I'm not even a developer, and I know this. So developers should know better not to put the important declarations in their code, because it makes it very difficult for website owners, especially website owners that are not proficient in coding, okay? So it's not a best practice. They shouldn't do it, but sometimes we have to face it, okay? So when I put in CSS to create these CSS packages, or just to add CSS to client websites, when I do it, I do not add the important declaration unless it is absolutely necessary to override bad practices done by a previous developer, okay? That's the only time I would do it, okay? So I avoid that at all costs. Another thing too that it does is when you add that declaration, it's extra text. It's just a larger CSS file that has to be created than is necessary. Okay. Now, obviously, if you do a few important declarations here and there, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not that much text. But if you do them over and over and over again, it definitely increases the size of that CSS file. And that CSS file needs to load on the page where it's required, right? Hopefully not on every page, which is something we're going to get into next. Performance. Using WP Codebox's condition builder feature, code snippets are only applied where they should be rather than loading across the entire website, as you typically find with MyListing websites. So in the previous video, I got into that. So this, if you expand the performance tab here, I got into that here with the performance video I did. And that has to do with this code snippet conditional loading. So I wanted to bring it up again here in case someone skipped over that, but we're gonna look at this a little closer, okay? So I'm gonna dive into the back end of Canvas. We're gonna go to WP Codebox. Something I wanna point out too is Canvas is the only starter site that has WP Codebox 2, which is the latest, greatest rendition of WP Codebox. It jumped from 1 to 2. There is no upgrade path. It's just you gotta go from 1 to 2 and move your snippets over. So that is what it is. But starting clean when I was building the Canvas starter site, 2 had come out. So that's why this site had got it. Over time, I'm going to go back to the other starter sites and migrate all the snippets over. But for now, Canvas is the only one with this latest, greatest WP Codebox 2. Okay, much more powerful, highly feature packed, and it's also they're about to drop a huge update any day now. It's just massive. Anyway, so enough about that. We're going to dive in here. What I want to show you is the conditional loading. Again, I covered it in another video. I'm going to cover it a bit more here. But let's look at the CSS packages that I was referring to. So here we're looking at the light mode folder. So everything in here, every snippet under this folder is to turn the website into a light mode look, which is the default anyway. So if you wanted to go into the dark mode and flip over everything to dark mode, you would just go in here and toggle these on, toggle the light mode off, okay? But the important thing here is to look at the conditional loading. So global, for example. What I mean by global is that this applies, and I document it too in each of these snippets, is that this is okay to apply to every page on the website because it's most likely going to be called upon. For example, your colors are here at the top, the system font stack here, hiding certain like menu items from certain roles or certain login, log out status, any of the MyListing modals like the cart modal, fixing typography issues with MyListing, any Elementor fixes that need to happen across the entire site, and so on and so forth. So this is the only snippet that runs everywhere. That's why I call it global. But when you start getting into snippets like the MyListing dashboard, for example, we get into we open the conditions builder here, and we see that I'm only applying it to any page that has the slug my account in it. Okay, so any URL with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply this CSS that's in here. Okay. Going to the Explore page, we're going to look at the conditions builder here. Any page URL that contains the word Explore, or contains the word category, or contains the word region, or contains the word tag. This stuff takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of testing, but it pays off by not loading all of the CSS across the entire site. So if you look here at all the CSS it takes to make an Explore page look as good as it does on a starter site, you just don't want all of this code loading across all of your site. And it just goes on and on and on. A lot, like I said, a ton of testing went into all this to make sure, all of the areas were covered where the CSS needs to apply. But you can look, just to style the preview cards and make them look as good as they do, CSS is needed. Only load it where it's needed. And it's the case with all of these, okay? All of these snippets are that way. The alternative, as I say here, as you see with most of my listing websites, is that the code is going to be loaded across the entire website. So typically you go in here and you go to theme tools, theme options, and you go to custom code and you drop your code here in CSS. You do it on your own. Sometimes people are instruct you to do that, and it is absolutely the worst thing you can do. This is going to load on every page of your website. Similarly, the same thing. If you go to Appearance, Customize, and someone tells you to put CSS in the customizer, same deal, folks. So in this additional CSS area, same deal. It's going to load across your entire website. Now, there's other alternatives out there. There's other code snippet plugins. You'll hear me often say, I hate when people always, constantly say, this is the best, this is the greatest, this is that, this is that. And sometimes they just always have this is the best, this is the greatest for everything. And I try to stay away from those words as best that I can. This is one of those solutions where I, without a doubt, have 100% confidence in saying, this is the best code snippet plugin on the planet for WordPress, period, end of story. Tried them all. They do not compare. They are all chasing this code snippet plugin. So if you see one out there that someone's offering it for free, or someone's offering a code snippet plugin for free or very cheap to try to get you into their ecosystem and sell you other products and all that, be very wary of all of that. As they say, you get what you pay for. And I'd be very careful in hitching your wagon to solutions that are free, and just think about long-term sustainability. that's just part of it. Then there's just the other feature set that you got to take into account. The WP Codebox provides that these other ones don't. I'm not trying to just sell WP Codebox here. I literally use it on every website, even if it's not a MyListing website, my own business websites, all my other client websites, my other WordPress agency. WP Codebox is one of the first 2 or 3 plugins that goes in. It goes in on every site. It just depends what order I put them in. Or if I use a blueprint, it's part of the blueprint install that I do, but it's on every site. Okay. The only exception would be is if it's a website that you just know is not going to need absolutely any custom code or any CSS or anything, which is very rare. But anyway, so that's that. The third piece here is the modularity. Okay. All code snippets are modular, so they can be easily toggled on or off for testing, troubleshooting, removal. Now you think of the converse. So let's go ahead and open WP Codebox again. Let's look at a snippet that's not CSS. While it definitely applies to CSS 100%, let's look at a PHP code. What if you didn't know what was causing the issue and you're trying to narrow down a code snippet that might be causing it? All you got to do is toggle on and off these switches. Okay, it's just as simple as this. Toggle off the switch, test the site, see if the issue goes away, and just rinse and repeat. Now, granted, if you're not a developer, you may not know which ones to go and toggle off first. To start with, one thing you can do is toggle off the entire WP Codebox plugin. If the issue goes away, then you know it's a snippet, right? And then you can figure out from there, what path you want to take. Untick all of the boxes in the PHP folder, test, see if it goes away, turn them on one by one, figure out what the issue is. It's the same way that I would test. I'm not telling you or asking you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. That's how I would do it. Okay. Now, conversely, imagine if all of your code is in here. Okay. So if I just take all this code and I drop it in here, or I go in here, you don't drop CSS in this JavaScript folder, but if you did, and let's say you also threw in some raw code in here, and I save my changes. Now, 5 days later, you've got an issue and you're trying to track it down. You go in here, you don't have WP Codebox. This is what you have. You've got this big, long, and this is nothing. You're going to have a lot more than this, most likely. You got this big, long string of text or this big, long string of text. How are you going to know even where to begin? One thing you could do is do a Control A if you're on Windows, select all and then delete it and then see if it goes away. Okay, but as far as just toggling things on and off and testing and seeing if it works, which is much better because then you're not just disabling everything at once. It's just a much, much better approach. It's just easier to navigate too, because unless you're really good at commenting out your code and documenting it, which is a pain, you don't have this folder structure where it's named properly. The code snippet, each individual code snippet is named. You can add documentation notes in here in the description, and so on and so forth. The benefits are just enormous for doing it this way. And that's what I mean by modularity. If you come in here, for example, if you are a starter site customer, you buy this starter site, you may find I'm trying to think of an example. Ryan, I don't want to use, whatever, one of these snippets. I don't want to use it. Then all you do is just turn it off and move on. So if you don't need to show content based on role right here, for example, toggle that off. You don't need it. What else? If you don't want to do a WooCommerce logout redirect, so when someone goes to log out, if you don't want to redirect them somewhere, turn that off. It's just that way you don't have to go and hunt through the code and stuff to find what it is that you need to do. Let me show you another alternative here. I'm going to pull up my FileZilla, which I highly recommend you use that to connect to your websites to browse the file system rather than installing a file manager plugin. But here we are in Canvas, for example. I'm going to back up here. So another thing you'll often hear people tell you to do, which I do not recommend you do, if you can avoid it at all costs, is they're going to say, just put this in your functions PHP file. Okay. So I've got a full-time job. I am a whatever. I'm a banker, right? I don't know anything about technology, but on the side, I have a side hustle. I'm building a website for cookies. and I'm trying to build up this MyListing website, and I'm trying to make this functionality go, and someone says, hey, just put this in your functions PHP file. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh yeah, just fire up this and go to here and punch this into your functions PHP file. And they're like, here's the path. And you're like, okay, and you finally get in here and you figure out, okay, so they told me to go here to WP content. Then they said to go to themes. And then, okay, they said to go to my child theme, which I don't have one. But luckily, the MyListing Club has a guide on how to install it. So I got that installed. Okay, so now I'm going into my listing child theme. I'm then going into my functions PHP. They tell me I'm supposed to edit it. Okay, that's just because of my computer, so just ignore that. But then you bring up this file, and it's just a file that you should not be in unless you are an advanced user. But even then, you don't need to do it. You just need, let me see if I can pull this up here. It's just because I need to specify a text editor on within FileZilla. So let me do that real quick here. I'm going to show you what this file looks like, in case you haven't seen it. So give me 1 second here. All right, let's try that. Okay, there we go. So here we go. So this is what you get. And they're going to say, and this is not a big deal because this is like a default one, so there's not much in here. It's a child theme. And they're going to say, okay, go in here. They're going to say, place the code after happy coding. So let's just pretend this was our code. This was the function they wanted us to add. Go down here. It's highly dangerous. What if the user, the website owner, doesn't read correctly and they erase some code in here or place some code in here? And heaven forbid they do this with a file manager plugin and not an FTP application like FileZilla. Then they've completely locked themselves out of their site. It's just not the way to go. And if somebody's trying to sell you a plugin that's just, to get to a function, to be able to enter data into your functions PHP, yeah, I just do not recommend you go that route. I think they're just probably trying to get you into their ecosystem and sell you more products. You don't need it. You just need the free FileZilla app that works on any operating system if that's the route you want to go. You don't need a plugin to edit your functions PHP file if that's what you're going to do. If you're going to get a plugin to do that, you might as well get WP Codebox or some other, in my recommendation, some other full-blown code snippet plugin. Okay, so that's my recommendation there. What else? I think that pretty much covers the modularity piece. Okay. I have a note here. Rest assured that these code snippets do not create any reliance on me, Ryan, or a developer. So like I showed you, there's nothing in here you have to keep. Turn it off, turn it on as you want. This is where the club community is really, really awesome, is you can just ask me the question, right? Ryan, do I need this particular thing? Or Ryan, I don't think I need logout redirect. What does that do? I'll answer questions like that. Or if you need a code snippet, you could say, do you have a code snippet, Ryan? And how should I add it? Where should I add it into WP Codebox, for example? And I'll tell you that sort of thing. Okay. If you don't want to use something, it's not a problem. Toggle off or remove the corresponding code snippet and let the default styling functionality of the MyListing theme take over. So again, all I'm doing is adding functionality on top of the MyListing theme. We are not changing the theme itself. This just sits on top and either changes or adds functionality to it. You can toggle this off and remove it as you need to. If you are a starter site customer, I recommend you just toggle it off. If you don't need something, just toggle it off. I wouldn't delete it. You may want it in the future. Let's see, let's go back. I'm just going to wrap this up with some other benefits of WP Codebox, and then I'll get you out of here. Every code snippet added to this starter site is applied using WP Codebox, which is included and licensed, which provides many benefits over other code snippet methods. Performance. You reduce the amount of plugins, conditional code snippet loading, etc. Cloud storage and syncing. You have a cloud repository with the ability to sync all of your code snippets across all of the websites that you manage. So any website where you have WP Codebox installed, you can put your license key in, your API key, do that on your other websites, and then they just sync with the cloud. They follow you to each of your websites where you can choose to use them or not. Okay. Search, folder search. So you can search all throughout, in here, whether you want to search through a folder. So if I just type the word in, show me all code snippets with I'm trying to think of something, gray, the word gray in it. So it's going to filter out all of those code snippets with the word gray. So a more likely scenario is like, okay, I want to replace anywhere that I use the border radius, whatever. So do a search for border - radius. And that's going to show you all of your code snippets that have a value for border radius in there. You can get really specific. Show me all of the code snippets with border radius 10 pixels. And this is going to show you. So that way you can go through all of them and change it to the border radius that you want. Things of that nature. Okay, so you can search through folders and you can search through snippets. If I do a Control F here and do a search for the word none, it's going to find all of the instances in the code snippet with the word none. All right. What's next? Code snippet content search. So we did that. I showed you can search through folders and the code snippets, etc. Folders, code snippets organized by folders. You can create as many folders as you want in here. Yeah, it's just highly powerful stuff. Easy troubleshooting. Easily toggle on and off code snippets to identify faulty code, or toggle on and off if you don't want to use certain code. Autocomplete. This is a huge one. So WP Codebox helps you write code. So if I just go up here to the top, let's just start here. Let's say .button. You saw what it did there. So if I just type a period, it's like going to give you a bunch of things that you could add. So I'm just going to do, I know .button is an example. I'm going to put my bracket there. So it gives you the brackets that you need. Hit enter. And like I said, border radius. So let's do border. You just start typing in the word and then they give you the options. Okay, here's border radius. Put that in. Okay, here's some values that you might like to use. Really, really cool stuff. Okay. Sorry, my dog is making noise there, so I apologize for that. But this is just the beginning. Again, this is not a video to promote WP Codebox. It just turns out to kind of seem that way because it's what I use to do all of this stuff with. So it's kind of unavoidable. But I will say that there's a massive update that is about to drop, and it's just going to blow. This plugin already blows the doors off of all other code snippet plugins. It's really about to up that ante massively any day now. So I definitely would just check it out. It's worth just checking out. There's a discount through the club as well, or you, like I said, you get it for free, licensed with any starter site. All right. And website care clients also get it, and manage my listing people also get it as well. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.